Welcome back to New Amsterdam Radio, the podcast for creatives, thinkers, and doers. It is I, the mayor, Flubba Boys, high upside the mayor's office, hang with people who make me go, And today I'm going to learn more about what it takes to understand the mysticism of it all. Please welcome a multi-hyphenate. I mean, the guy has done so many things. I have to write them down on my notes on two separate lines. Dovid Krafchow. How's going on, sir? Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Great to be here.
So let me ask this. Do you consider yourself an author first? Do you consider yourself a practitioner first? Like if I had to say what you did at a party, what would be the first thing you would say up front?
No, I'd say I'm an author. That was my main desire in the world, to be an author, and I found something to write about. And but I'm also a practitioner in that I use the tarot cards. And people don't understand that the tarot is a very Jewish thing. If you read it backwards, tarot, it reads Torah, which is our text of all our texts. It's called Torah. It means teachings. Yeah. And the thing with teachings is it invites people to ask questions. So that's the thing about the Torah, that people are invited to ask questions. You're not just supposed to. There's no word for belief in Hebrew. Right. We don't believe things. We know things. Either you know or you don't know. See, belief is you don't know, then you believe something.
So if I can be skeptical, that's okay to understand questions and learn more about the world. No, I'm not saying I am. I'm just a little bit of fun there. It's interesting because in my life, I had 2 tarot readings, professionally, in person, and a couple of virtual ones. I always get the same cards. So to me,
really?
It's kind of fun. Yeah, it's always 7 of Cups. I don't know why. I don't know what's up with that. But that's just me. So before we hit record, we were talking about before how you decided to go down this path, and it really was something amazing. You were in the military, you came out, and you wanted to see the world in a different light.
Well, I was in the beginning of the Vietnam War, so I felt very guilty, that people didn't like us at that point. People had been in the military. And so I kind of just gave everything away, and I just started hitchhiking, which I did for about 5 years, trying to sort of understand the world and where I was in the world. And at one point, I met someone who was Jewish, a rabbi up in Bangor, Maine. And he told me about this school in Brooklyn, and I put out my thumb and went there, and they actually kicked me out.
Oh, what happened?
They didn't like the way I looked. I had long hair and patched clothes, and
okay.
But eventually I made my way in, and I wanted to learn. I hadn't as a child, and so that once you learn how to read, then all the books are open to you. It's all a matter of what you want to learn. Some people want to learn the law so they know, what to do, and other people want to know the truth. The people more like me. And so we get in more of the mystical stuff, which sort of explains like who God is and where God is and why creation is. These are like really major kind of things that people need to know in their lives. Right. And the problem is, if people don't know this, then they're kind of like an empty vessel, and they get filled with things that are not true. And then that really affects our world. Right. Like in like how God is portrayed in the world is always as something spiritual. Mm. And this is not a Jewish God. The Jewish God is not spiritual. The Jewish God is not physical. The Jewish God has no representation in the world whatsoever. And so we call God one because we're duality, and one is completely unique within duality. And that's how God is. And God's everywhere to everybody all the time. That's kind of the Jewish message. I should have saved that for the recording, yeah?
No, we're recording now. We're talking about this now on New Amsterdam Radio.
Oh, we're recording now.
Yes, we are.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay, so I'm glad I said it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's kind of the Jewish thing. I mean, and I feel like because the Jewish knowledge has not really been brought into the world, that people hate the Jewish people. Mm-hmm. And they shouldn't be hating us because, there's a lot of good we do in the world. It says in the Torah that if the people of the world saw what the Jewish people did, understood what we did, that they would surround us with armies that no one could hurt us.
Right.
Instead of the opposite, surrounded with armies that wanted to destroy us. And why? Because the obligation of being Jewish is to do the 613 commandments. And these are delineated in the Torah between 248 and 365, the 365 days that we go around the sun. And interesting enough, 7 planets away, and the planet Pluto goes around the sun 248 years.
Oh.
So, yeah, so this is kind of a pattern that was, that's why there's 7 continents on the earth, and these 613 commandments that the Jewish people do brings a sort of energy to the earth that we all need to keep the earth nourished. Mm-hmm. So that's no reason to hate the Jewish people, right?
Totally understand that. I guess from as someone who's not Jewish, I wonder what's been your perspective if you've seen individuals or entities trying to assail your belief system or your people, but you are faithful as well. Has that been a conflict of just trying to be tolerant for others and but also understanding there's some that want to see you eradicated?
Well, it's something from the time from my first memories, actually. I lived in San Francisco, and right above our house was this huge cross. Mm-hmm. And we just got TV where they show the story of Jesus on the cross. And so this was always something I was taught, I'm Jewish, this is not for you. And so, yeah, this has been a huge conflict in the world. And I think it's something that's just the Jewish people know that this never happened. And the Arab people, the Muslim people know that it never happened. So this is something that the Romans made up to really hurt the Jewish people, and it's really hurt us. Because anywhere you go in the world now, I've just, experienced this throughout my life, is that when you mention you're Jewish to certain people, their response is, oh, you're the God killer. That's what's been spread around the world, and that's why people are basically anti-Semitic. Because what worse thing could you do than to kill God? That's their story. And yet there's not a single bit of evidence that Jesus even lived. Jesus is not historical. So all this stuff, and they take the Torah and they call it a testament, and they make it into dogma. And so they really have wronged the Jewish people.
Sure.
I mean, this is just wrong.
And so when you're from a positioning of educating others, how do you balance? Again, you've done this in many different expressions. We'll get to that soon, but your Udemy course and also your books. But what is the balance between making sure everyone understands history or understands the perspective while not becoming dogmatic in your own way?
Well, I mean, in Torah, the way that we know that things are true is if they don't contradict. So, like if you say, well, God's all love. Well, that's not true. God is not all love. And thing we look around us, we don't see love everywhere. I mean, and so it's a nice thing to say, it's a nice feeling, but if we're looking for truth, that's not the truth. See? And so we have to, that these things, so it's through dialogue, but it has to be a dialogue that can't say, well, it says it here, so we all have to, bow down to that. Even in the Torah, with the Torah's prophecy comes out of the heavens, but it also cannot contradict. So a lot of the study that goes on for thousands of years has how we deal with these seemingly contradictions, which maybe can open up other contradictions. And all this stuff has to be satisfied in order to be able to go forward, together as a whole. The oneness of the Torah and the way that it understands the world and what we're supposed to do in the world. Not just us, but also for non-Jews. Like we have 613 commandments and non-Jews have 7 commandments. And if everyone does the 7 commandments, God's happy with everybody. And
it's 10 in our culture, but I totally understand that
But
as
the
well.
10 is not really true. The 10 are the 10 commandments were only given to the Jews. We're not given to the non-Jews. The 7 commandments were given to Adam, who gave them to Noah, and they're called the Noahide commandments. And there's 7 of them, and they are not to worship anything but God, and not to use God's name in vain, not to murder, not to steal, to make laws about sexuality, and to make laws about animals and the environment, and make courts of law. And that's how we're supposed to live, and to adopt things from other cultures, particularly when you're not understanding what they mean, is just, it's not knowledge.
Yeah.
It's just kind of dogma. It's ways to, to make people do, the word I want, to make people do what you want them to do. Manipulation. It's a way of manipulation with people, and using God as a way of doing it. Is just, it's not right.
Yeah. I'm so glad you clarified that because I'm sure other people may have thought of it that way too. So thank you so much, and that's super important. But you had mentioned it before at the top of the show about the relationship between tarot and the Torah. To me, this was very interesting, and that's the reason I wanted to take this call today because I thought there were two different worlds, but you're saying they're all kind of connected.
Yes, they're very connected. You see it in the name, because if you read it backwards, it's Torah. And we have a custom in our, amongst the Jewish people coming up the holiday of Hanukkah, where we play with the dreidel. Maybe you've seen people do this. That's the thing, you're supposed to gamble with your children with the dreidel. Why? To remind them that that the Greeks came into Israel, and told everyone you can't study Torah anymore. You have to be Hellenized. You have to go to college. No more Torah. So they came out the next day, and people are playing cards. So they said, what are you doing? So they said, well, we can't learn, so we're gambling. And these are the basis of the tarot cards. And the way I got into the tarot cards is I realized that what they were showing, I bought a pack, and I put them all out on the floor, and I could see how they were all in the same pattern, what we call the tree of life, based upon 10. And the human body is in the form of the tree of life, and the earth is in the form of a tree of life, and the solar system is a tree of life, all made out of 10. The sun and the 9 planets, the 7 continents and the 3 oceans, and the human being is made in 3 triangles, and then finally the power of speech, which makes us different from the animals, that we can articulate thoughts into speech like we're doing here.
Yeah.
Animals, they can't do that.
Yeah, on some level, yeah. And so do you come across any pushback from other leaders in the Jewish community who say, I'm with you in faith, but not with this?
Yes, that many of the leaders and the rabbis realize, well, my work is right. There's nothing contradictory in my work, but they won't endorse my work. And so mainly it's kind of pushed me, try to go out into the world and bring my work to the world. And many people have valued from the book and from the course, which is on Udemy, that to have a better understanding of who we are as human beings and how we act and how we interact. And all this wisdom is laced into the tarot cards. And so I first published it as Listening to the Soul, and I sold it to Inner Traditions that published it as Kabbalistic Tarot.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I did the course also on Udemy. It's called Kabbalistic Tarot.
Yeah.
And it has a lot of, I got a lot of really nice reviews, what people said about the course, that they really got a lot out of it. And that's why I hope for all of my books that talks about how things are made, how creation is made, how time is made, and who God is and how God interfaces with creation. All this stuff is very important. So let me just briefly. So when God creates the human being, so God has planted all the seeds